Throughout history, Israel has been a land of intense religious, political, and territorial debates. One idea that has stirred passions in the region is the concept of Greater Israel. But what exactly is Greater Israel? How has this idea evolved, and what does it mean today? To understand Greater Israel, we have to begin with the holy books which lay out the religious foundation of the concept. The idea stems from the covenant between God and the patriarch Abraham, who is promised that his descendants will inherit a land stretching from the Nile River in Egypt to the Euphrates River in modern-day Iraq. This area includes parts of present-day Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. This promise is often referred to as the Promised Land, a key part of Jewish belief. However, its interpretation has varied significantly over time, with different Jewish groups and scholars debating whether this was a literal or symbolic promise. Historically, the concept of Greater Israel evolved as the boundaries of ancient Israel shifted. Under King David and King Solomon, Israel's borders were at their largest, but they never extended as far as the full biblical description of Greater Israel. Instead, the kingdom's peak included parts of present-day Israel, Lebanon, and Jordan, but never fully incorporated all the lands between the Nile and Euphrates. After the fall of these ancient kingdoms, the Jewish people were dispersed, and the concept of Greater Israel faded into the background for centuries. However, the idea never completely disappeared, resurfacing at various points in Jewish religious thought and literature. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Zionist movement reignited Jewish hopes of returning to their ancestral homeland. However, the movement was primarily focused on establishing a Jewish state in the area of what is now Israel, rather than the full extent of Greater Israel. In 1948, the modern state of Israel was founded, and its borders were based on international negotiations and wars, not ancient biblical claims. After Israel's victory in the 1967 Six-Day War, it captured significant territories: the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. This territorial expansion led some Israeli nationalists and religious groups to believe that the creation of Greater Israel might be possible. Some of these groups began advocating for the annexation of the West Bank and other territories, viewing them as part of the biblical Promised Land. This sentiment gave rise to the notion of Greater Israel in a modern political context, especially within the religious Zionist movement. In modern Israeli politics, the term Greater Israel is most closely associated with right-wing and religious nationalist groups. These factions believe that Israel has a divine right to the territories it conquered in 1967, especially the West Bank, which they refer to by its biblical names, Judea and Samaria. For them, giving up any of this land is seen as a betrayal of Jewish history and God's promise. However, the concept of Greater Israel is not universally accepted within Israel. Many Israelis, including political leaders, oppose annexation of the West Bank or expansion beyond the current borders, citing the need for peace with Palestinians and the dangers of international isolation. The Israeli government has not officially endorsed the idea of Greater Israel, but policies like settlement expansion in the West Bank and the annexation of East Jerusalem are often seen as steps toward realizing a version of it. Internationally, the idea of Greater Israel has been met with widespread opposition, particularly in the Arab world and among Palestinian leaders, who view any expansionist ambitions as a direct threat to their own territorial claims. The West Bank, in particular, remains a central issue in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Palestinians see it as part of their state, while some Israeli settlers and political factions see it as part of Greater Israel. The United Nations and many countries have passed numerous resolutions condemning Israeli settlements in the West Bank as violations of international law. These diplomatic efforts have often had little impact on the ground, with settlement expansion continuing and further complicating the prospect of a two-state solution. Greater Israel has also fueled tensions with neighboring Arab states, even those that have peace treaties with Israel, such as Egypt and Jordan. While formal relations exist, any hint of Israeli territorial expansion often triggers sharp criticism and protests. For Arab countries, the idea of Greater Israel is seen as a threat to regional stability, and they view Israeli policies in the West Bank and East Jerusalem as part of a broader strategy to reshape the region's borders. Even in the context of the Abraham Accords, which have seen some normalization between Israel and certain Gulf states, the issue of Palestinian land remains a critical sticking point, with Arab leaders wary of being seen as complicit in any Israeli annexation efforts. Greater Israel has also become a rallying point for Israel's critics, including many Islamist groups like Hezbollah and Iran, who accuse Israel of wanting to dominate the entire Middle East. These claims, though not supported by the Israeli government, fuel regional tensions. While the political reality of Greater Israel remains complicated, the idea has also become the subject of numerous conspiracy theories. These theories suggest that Israel has secret plans to conquer the entire region, from Egypt to Iraq, and that it seeks global domination. The future of Israel's borders is still uncertain, and the question of how much land Israel should control remains a key issue in the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As long as this debate continues, the idea of Greater Israel will likely remain a point of contention, both within Israel and across the world. While the idea of Greater Israel remains largely theoretical, it's important to consider Israel's capacity to establish such a state in the modern era. Israel possesses one of the most advanced militaries in the world, backed by cutting-edge technology, a strong economy, and close alliances with powerful nations like the United States. These factors give Israel significant leverage in regional conflicts. However, despite its military strength, Israel faces substantial obstacles to expanding its borders. The international community, including key allies, is firmly opposed to annexation or unilateral border changes, and regional powers like Iran and Hezbollah would likely react with hostility. Moreover, the demographic challenge of absorbing millions of Palestinians in territories like the West Bank poses significant risks to Israel's democratic and Jewish identity. Thus, while Israel has the military and economic power to exert control, the geopolitical and internal consequences make the realization of Greater Israel highly unlikely. Regional countries, particularly those in the Arab world and neighboring states, have several diplomatic and political options to address the potential threat of Israeli expansion or Greater Israel ambitions. First, they can strengthen multilateral alliances and regional cooperation through organizations like the Arab League or the Gulf Cooperation Council. These nations can increase their diplomatic leverage and pressure Israel to halt settlement expansions or any potential annexations by presenting a united front. Additionally, regional countries can work with the United Nations to push for more robust enforcement of existing resolutions, and they can advocate for renewed international mediation in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to ensure a two-state solution remains viable. Engaging Israel through diplomatic channels as seen with the Abraham Accords can also provide a framework for negotiations while ensuring that key issues like the status of the West Bank and Palestinian statehood are prioritized. Peace in the region is not possible without a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In this case, the Greater Israel discourse will become more provocative in the hands of far-right politicians. This will increase suspicions about Israel and seriously damage the country's reputation.